Come on, everybody, let's start the show. A quick ahoy hoy and away we'll go. Richard's got a minifig and Flynn's got a pin. The gang's all here and it's time to begin. TrickyBricks roll call. Moto, Holly, Cara, and sometimes Blair, Clicky, Logan, Ms. Thing and Angela, and Thunderman Ho! Now you're here to grab your bricks and let's go to the TrickyBricks Build and Chat Show!
Ahoy, hoy,
ahoy, hoy, everybody! Happy Sunday! Oh, goodness. I hope that you're all having a good weekend. I know we're having a good weekend. We've been
up for hours.
Hours. Can you believe it?
We're early risers, though. Flynn more than me.
But we had to, we wanted to get a refresher. So we watched the episode this morning. So we were had it fresh in our minds so that we could talk about it with you here today.
Every brick, every speck of glitter.
I know, and glitter. I was so glad. And you know, glitter's hard.
Oh my goodness. Try, if you do a show or anything with glitter, Halloween, anything, try getting the glitter out of your life.
Oh yeah, Mardi Gras, post Mardi Gras, when I lived in New Orleans. Lived in New Orleans was always like a, you know, just, you had to get the hose and just hose down from the massive amount of glitter.
6 months later, and you're in the office, and someone's like, "What is that bling on your cheek?"
So,
it was a fun, exciting episode.
It was
lots of excitement.
A fun, exciting episode with lots of excitement that we will be talking about in detail a little bit later. But for now, let us invite our guests on today. First up, we have from our cast of irregulars. Now, this is a sometimes not Blair week, so Blair will not be joining us this week. But who we do have is and she changed her name again, everybody. And she's back to Holly. Hi, Holly.
Ahoy, hoy.
Ahoy, hoy.
You can still call me Princess Tricky Weasel. That's fine, too.
Okay, Princess Tricky Weasel it's terribly appropriate. And also we have with us Minifig Chick. Hi, Cara.
Hi, Cara.
Hi.
Everyone is awesome.
Yay! Everyone is awesome set.
Look, you got it.
I got it.
We'll be talking about the Rainbow Build Challenge in just a minute because there's
Cool.
I found out something about it today that was very exciting. So this is good.
Okay.
And also, this is and again, he's straddling that line between regular guest and special guest of the day.
I know he doesn't know whether to keep his Clark Kent glasses on or off.
I know. And today, apparently, he's in disguise. Everybody, please welcome to the stream, Prince Weasel of Tricks, Moto.
Hi, Moto.
Hi, Moto.
Mo, I just saw you on TV.
I know. I just saw you on the TV in my living room.
Yeah, and I ran over here as fast as I could. You see me run. I'm pretty quick.
And then we have two other very special guests for today. One is a returning special guest who we always love to have because he's such a delightful internet personality and human. Everybody, please welcome to the stream, Bricks O'Brien.
What's going on?
Brian.
Hello.
Hi, Brian.
How's it going?
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Well, we also have one more. You know, we always like to mix it up and have some new people. Now we have somebody here today, a special guest she's in the chat very frequently, and I've been following her on Instagram for quite some time. A delightful person in the Lego community who you should know, and if you're not following, you already should. Please welcome to Jamay, Bricks and Mortar. Hi, Jamay.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jamay.
So good to be here. Nice to meet everybody.
Nice to meet you too. Well, I met you earlier, but
yes.
On screen for the first time. So great to have you, and great to have everybody here.
Look at how relaxing and tranquil your background is, Jamay. It's like you're at a spa.
I know.
Thank you. My partner Callie, she did this week. She just did a whole revamp because she's getting into plants a lot. Like where I have gone into Lego in quarantine, she's gone into plants, and so now we have like almost 100 plants in our house. So now that a bunch of them live behind me, so feel free to ask me questions and I will try to answer them for you.
Well, that's a nice balance, right? Lego and plants. Now,
I think so.
Have you gotten any of the botanicals? Like,
I have not. And I think it's because I like minifigure scale stuff, so it's more of a display piece. And for her, she loves taking care of the plants, so they will never grow. So I think she's like saddened by that. So it's never really made it into our house.
We also have
what you could do though is like you could build like a small pot of flowers and then build like a little Lego watering can next to it and let her just water them every day. And then like when she goes to sleep at night, you can just like continuously like build them up.
That's amazing. That's like Elf on a Shelf, but like for the plants.
That's awesome. That's an amazing idea. Yes. Oh my goodness.
That's a good idea.
We have a pack somewhere of. Oh, am I a little? Oh, I'm
maybe a little
today.
high. It's okay.
Also, we have a pack somewhere of plant-based Lego. It's plant pieces, extras,
right?
That are the sustainable plastic.
Yeah, they put those boxes out for a little while. So,
one of those.
Golly. Okay, well, let's move forward with
with our feature.
It's time for pins. What have we got going on? Oh, you know what? I realized we haven't said hi to everybody in the chat, but we'll do that after pins.
Okay.
So, why don't we go ahead and, as always, minifig chick, Kara, you are up first.
Have pin will travel.
All right, I have a pair today. I'm unmuted. Good. I have a pair today, and I only have 3 of these. So if anybody wants to get me a present, the rest of these would be awesome. These are the bathroom pins. So if you don't know Disneyland, or even if you do, the bathrooms in each of the lands have themed women and men signs. And so this is Adventureland with the tikis. And I have
that's so cool.
I have the female from Tomorrowland, but those are the only bathroom pins I have. So but they're super fun.
Very nice. Cool. All right. Let's see if we got up next. Holly.
All right. Sorry. It's one you guys have seen before, but it's one of my favorites from Sword in the Stone. Madam Mim. With the concept art.
Awesome, obscure character with concept art. Very good. Nice.
That's cool.
All right. We'll just keep on going around the circle. Jamay, what have you got for us today? Special guest Jamay.
I've got 2. So this one says, it's about the vaccine. It says, I've got my Fauci ouchie. And I saw this and I loved it because he's just on it. So Dr. Fauci forever. And then the second one I have is actually, so it's a little small. So it's this backpack. But the reason I have it is because I have the backpack. So for a little while, and I've decorated with patches and things, but for a little while I had it on my backpack to be a little meta. But then I was afraid I was going to lose it. So now it just lives on my bookshelf. So this is my personality, is to have pins that are pins of things that I own that are larger.
That's awesome. That's so cool. All right, Brian. I know you're not a pin guy, but I bet you got something special.
So I got a very, not like a passive aggressive message from Flynn earlier, but he's like, make sure you have your pin and minifigure, Brian. And I'm like, oh, I will. Don't worry. It turns out I have a lot of pins from, they released for the Mario anniversary pins recently. So I have a slew of those. Go figure with the branding. So I have this Mario Odyssey pin today.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Nice.
So there's a lot more where this came from, but I'll show you just one today. And over the course of the weeks, I'll be donning myself with more of them. So there's
Is that Cappy? 1. Is that the name of the hat? Isn't it Cappy?
Yes, you got it. Nice. Very proud. Very proud.
I love seeing Brian happy.
You know what's funny is so many. I know a lot of pop culture stuff, and a lot of it is stuff that I'm not even like. I have to say that I haven't played that game, but I was in worked with video games for a while. But I just pick this stuff up by like culture osmosis. Like I just read things and see things, and yeah. So Cappy is right up in there. Then it makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about.
I'll take it.
You often do.
Sometimes. All right, Moto.
I have this amazing
working over
thing
there
that you sent me. I'm still not quite sure what that represents, but it's pretty cool.
Oh yes,
Bubbles?
coffee with bubbles.
Coffee with bubbles?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
What's that? I don't know that one either.
White blood cells.
Antibodies.
Is it the penicillin? I don't know what it is.
Weird.
Weird one.
It's the Louis Pasteur
Yeah.
Hidden Mickey pin.
Mickey Pasteur.
Pop.
All right, what have we got? Let me just make sure that Clicky is at the ready to put us into focus. Okay.
Well, if dames and duchesses can wear the same dress on the red carpet time and again, I can wear this Yeti pin yet again.
Yet again.
Oh, see what happened there?
Very
there
cool.
it is. Use the Yeti. Rawr.
I've got a one too. I believe this one is from Joel Marbella. I love this like cute Gaston pin.
Oh my god.
Oh.
No one's cute like Gaston.
That's right. And I love that the pin back actually gives him little Mickey ears when he's not like into his shirt.
Clever.
That's awesome.
I know. I love this. I love this little guy. I have to admit to being a Gaston fan, even though but I like the villains, so that's a thing. But
He's a good one.
he's so dreamy. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Let's go. Oh, okay. Yes. So we do actually write down what we're going to talk about. So
It helps.
we don't forget. So last week we
Thought you were going to welcome everyone.
Oh yes. Oh, you're right.
Chat.
Let's say hi to everybody. Everybody. Thank you. Got to keep me in line. We appreciate it. Getting over to because I have to open this in like a
TrickyBricks roll
whole
call.
nother window and it's a whole
Minifig
thing.
Chick also has the clipboard on the side, like, all right, and cue. All right, now we're doing this.
Okay, so Abby the Brick Squirrel is
mod.
here. Art and Jest. Hi, Brenda. Brickanisa is here. Brickaroo Bonsai. Bricks and Mortar is in two places at the same time. She's in the chat. She's on the screen. She is everywhere. We've got Brickman Mosaics Art, Brickaroo Bonsai, Bubs and Lava Bat. Darren Siegfried is here. Demure 7242, Fabufan MKE, the Greebling Wizard, Hooded One, Jake Sadovich. How's it going, Jake? Jake Pokeball Dameron Marbella. Wow.
Right on. That's like a name and lunch at the same time.
John Luttrell is here. Hey, John and Vicky, if you're there. Johnny Cat is here. Hey, Johnny. Lego Don. Lisa Head. Hey, Lisa. Matthew Builds Bricks. Minifig Chick. Monica Berry. Moto. And Ms. Slow Brickta.
For the
Don.
There's the Emscapades for you.
Patrick Wismer is here. Robin Eklund, Shane Levan. Hey, Shane. Cy O'Connor is here. Hey, Cy. And Tech Productions.
Tech.
Very cool. Oh, we've got all the peoples are here. And I know somewhere out there,
Zerkino.
Wilfred and Zerkino, Kim. I know you're there. Even if I don't see your name in the list, it's automatically there in my mind. So here we go. I'm going to have a sip of coffee.
In your Cheshire Cat cup.
And while I do that, now everybody, I mean, if you're a regular viewer of our show, you know everybody who's on here. And last week we talked about to Brian a little bit about what he does and how he got started with Lego. So we are going to talk to our special guest, Jamay, a little bit about her and what she does with Lego and how she got into the hobby. So Jamay, tell us, I'm going to put you on the big screen. Don't be surprised. It's going to be all you for a minute.
Jamay, how many bricks is it? How long did it take? And do you have instructions?
So it's all out of the way.
So Jamay, tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with Lego.
Yeah. So I've been playing with Lego and building with Lego since I was a kid. And it's actually how I figured out I wanted to be an architect. So that's what I do in my day job. And I went to school big time, got a master's after undergrad to be an architect someday. And so that's always been my relationship, is like wanting to build. And unsurprisingly, when I shifted to architecture school, that's when my dark ages began, because people don't have time and you're trying to be cool and, meet other people, and they're not always into Lego. And so for me, my dark ages started from high school all the way to the end of grad school. And then I got back into it actually because I had a health issue, which I've kind of talked about on my Instagram before, that resulted in me needing a hip replacement, which I got just a couple months ago. So Lego has been this really big coping mechanism for me as I've been older. And so I've been able to reconnect with it and build more complicated things than when I was a kid, and, mostly build sets. Been dabbling in mock building, but it's too much like my work. So I have to have a separate space for building for fun and, building at work. So I actually joined and was interested in following Tips and Bricks on Instagram for a long time. And then when I decided that I kind of wanted to get more into it, and then they were recruiting, I decided that I was going to apply. And I met Alex, who's the founder, and he's wonderful. And he was interested in not only recruiting a team, but a diverse team, and people from different countries and people from different backgrounds. And so now I've kind of gotten really into that part of, also recognized groups in LAN. And so it's been this very interesting journey of, I just built for me at first to cope with my own chronic pain and being limited in what I could do every day. And then it kind of grew into this larger community, and then a diverse community. And now I'm here for this. And it's totally unexpected and not at all what I thought it would be. But life's kind of unpredictable like that. So for me, it's just about figuring out what works for me at the time. And I talk a lot on streams about having your own boundaries and having your own understanding of what Lego means to you. And so for me, it means now a community and a safe space to talk about, being queer, being, anti-racist, and all sorts of things. And so my Instagram, where I've talked to Flynn and met you guys through Instagram, it's been a nice place to meet other like-minded people who are also interested in those things and Lego. So that's a long story, but it's kind of how I've been here. And so it's interesting. So I'm always talking about mental health, coping, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating, and I appreciate that, and that's one of the things that we are big into community building and people coming together to build and create and make art, and everybody does come at it from a different way. And certainly I've found being able to kind of tap into that that space where it's safe to talk about other things, things other than Lego. It doesn't have to be Lego 24/7 all the time, every day, even though it sometimes turns into that.
Yeah, it feels like it's.
I think the way we relate to it and how we all relate to it differently is what makes a stronger community, and what and what brings us all together. And I know that the few times that I've brought up mental health stuff on our show, and I as I'm sure you have been at times, it's hard to talk about, right? It's not the easiest thing to say to a group of people, exactly what's going on on that level. But I've found everybody to feel so supportive of it, and also relatable, right?
Definitely.
And they can feel like they're not alone, which I think is great.
Yeah, for Tips and Bricks, because we've been interested in diversity and inclusivity, I took it upon myself to make a mental health awareness post, and kind of did an audit of the community to see what people were doing, because not a lot of people talk about it. But as soon as I kind of cast a net and asked people what they were doing, some people were like, I write reviews on Rubricable, and that's like my thing that I do. And I think sometimes with Instagram, we just see people building mocks, and people think that's the only way to like participate in the hobby is to like build sets or build this. And I'm like, there are people who are just talking to people, but you wouldn't see it visually. And I think it's also like good to acknowledge that there's different ways of using Lego or having Lego in your life than just doing one thing that we kind of see all the time, which is amazing, but it's not always so glamorous.
Well, it's very interesting, and I don't know if any others of you have had this experience, but I have found that when I mean, like the pictures of just mocks are great, but when I actually make a post that's more personal, that like either like especially one that has a photo of us or just me or just Richard, like if it's just a human, putting the human face on the Lego, like not all plastic bricks. Those posts do exceptionally well. Like people really want to see that human side. I feel.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
I'm curious too. You said that your dark age was when you were in school and going through your master's degree. Pardon me. How was your building different with the background in conceivably structural engineering and design and all of that from before and after your dark age?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I actually, and this just might be a result of growing up too, I feel like I lost a lot of that creativity. So I'm constantly trying to get back to the like kid-like sense of building without thinking about it, or, building just for fun, where now I'm like, the way I prioritize my time is so different. The way I think about things structurally is very like rigid actually. And like, I kind of like the regularity of Lego and its modular systems, and then also of buildings. And so I find that I have to challenge myself to be more expressive or bend the rules. I can be very rigid in my daily life and in my work. So it's this constant challenge of like, well, what would I have thought 10 years ago or 20 years ago or something? and how can I, get back to that in some sense, but also make it stand up so that it isn't, a pain to handle, and that sort of like balance of what's fun and what works. And so I think school kind of zapped a lot of that creativity out of me because it was such a microcosm of like producing work, and in a very different way. I felt very strained creatively because I had to constantly be doing things and problem solving. So to be out of that now, I'm like just happy to take a breath and do what I want and not necessarily what is an assignment.
That's fascinating. I love that. I love that approach, and it's interesting because that is such a almost opposite way that I approach it. Like I am like, we joke around like he's the order, I'm the chaos. Like I'm like make things look like they're falling over and leaning over and look.
And
like
I say, good, but let's make sure they don't actually fall over.
Right.
Exactly. The illusion is important.
So I'm interested. How do you I'd love to hear from our guests. How do you approach Lego? Are you more the chaos or are you more the order, Holly?
Hang on.
She laughed. She's like, I'm done. I'm not even doing this.
I believe I have in writing. I have literally won the award for organized chaos.
Yay!
That tells you,
I forgot about that.
There you go.
That tells you everything right there. Yeah, it's a lot like Jamay actually. Like my profession involves me building essentially. Like I have to create assets. I do 3D modeling and painting and that kind of thing. So it's very similar to Lego building. Sometimes a little too similar. So depending on how my day job is going might influence how I build or don't build Lego.
Sure.
I enjoy the problem solving aspect of it. That's probably what actually keeps me interested in it and keeps me engaged in it. But somebody asked me recently if I preferred to build sets or mocks, and my answer was Generally, it's whichever one I'm not currently doing is my favorite. So when I'm in the process of building a mock and I get like really stuck on something and frustrated, I'm like, oh man, I really just wish I just need to just sit down and build a set and just kind of zen out and not have to like overthink this. But then when I'm building a set, I tend to find like I start getting ideas, like whether it's from a technique in building the set or just something in the set. I'm like, oh, I could totally do it. You know, I just come up with ideas and I'm like, oh, I could totally build this other thing, or I could totally do this a different way. And then I start getting like the mock juices flowing from building the set. So yeah, I can do whatever. Or sometimes I don't build at all and I just like to talk about Lego, and that's fine too. Yep. Sorry,
just real quickly while we're paused, I wanted to say hello to Kendra, who just showed up a new name. Hi, welcome, Kendra. I also saw Emma Soros slid into the chat a little bit earlier. Wanted to say hi to her. Welcome. Great to see you. And anybody else who may have like slid, Alexander 23, Delicious Foods, just like trying to catch up a little. Joseph Zawada's here, catching up on the list a little bit. So, all right, Cara, what do you think? Order or chaos? How do you approach Lego?
I am chaotic neutral.
Awesome. Nice D&D reference there. Very nice. Very nice.
Yes. Generally more chaos than anything else, but I would never show my apartment to anyone because you'd think I was an insane hoarder.
It's a lively workshop.
Oh, and
it's a very lively workshop.
Hey guys. So chaos. All right, Brian. I think I know what the answer is, but I'm gonna. What do you think? How do you approach Lego? Order or chaos?
Well, if we're going D&D references, according to this chart, I'm neutral good, so I don't know where I fall on that. So
means you put your bricks away.
Yes. Well, they end up in a little bowl on my desk, and then they eventually go into the bin of, a bin of fortune.
Lawful good is they would all go back and be separated.
Yeah. No. That does not happen. No. So for my Lego building, I like the idea of both, but I appreciate when I open up a set and I see the building techniques that go into it and how everything works on a level that I just don't think on. And I've gotten a little bit better about that when it comes to building custom things and, trying to make things work. I try to implement it, but it's not going to be on the level of like a pro designer. So I appreciate seeing the techniques done legally in that sense. But I like also the idea of just kind of seeing where things go and the flow and, experimenting in that way. So I definitely fall more into the controlled,
controlled
path.
chaos.
I don't know. Yeah, kind of sort of controlled chaos, but it never my office looks pretty, succinct. There's bags of sets over there, but that behind me it looks pretty together. So yeah.
Sure.
I try to
roll.
Yeah,
exactly. Just don't look at anything past here, and you're all right.
I know if
exactly.
everyone's lens on the web, on Zoom meetings and whatnot, suddenly turned wide angle, it would be a much different place.
Yes.
Yeah. Although I mean, people assume that I'm the tidy one, that I'm super organized and super tidy, and to some extent, yes, but it is lots of trays and bags and piles of kind of miscellaneous. So I try to keep it contained, but it's not all perfectly in its place. So,
all right,
nice
Moto. I think we all know the answer to this one.
What do you
Order
guys
or
think?
chaos, Moto?
What do you guys think?
I think order.
I think order.
It's
No.
order. I've seen beyond the lens. It's order.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
complete. It's a wreckage over here. It's a wreckage.
Okay, so now I will say though, like
It is
what your space is and
Yeah.
how you approach it though, how you approach building though is very different. Like we all like I think no matter how you approach it, you end up with somewhat of a messy studio. But like just like your main approach to building Lego, I find to be very
it's-
ordered.
Yeah. The final result in the builds, as you can see behind me, is all very mathematical, and there's a lot of Lego math. And I'm building a mountain, and that's You know, it looks a little chaotic,
Great.
a little volcano, but it's ordered. I mean, it's highly ordered and structured once you get down to it. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you're perfecting your mesh technique.
And I just saw Zonker Harris is here. How's it going?
Zonker.
Good to see you. Bricks with Justin is here. And I think I saw Claire, the plastic architect, is also here. Very good. Wow, lots of
all the famous.
The stars are out tonight, everyone. The stars are out tonight in the chat.
We have a lot of architects here.
An ordered builder.
The what?
Oh yeah.
Zonker is an ordered builder.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so now we've gone through that, and we are going to get to the the episode here in just a minute, but I have one more thing that I wanted to get everybody's kind of like impressions on. And let's do, for this one, we're just going to do a quick, like, give me a couple sentences about what you think about what I'm about to show you and whether you think you are going to purchase it or not.
Ooh, I like this.
Is this one of those, like, how does this make you feel?
How does this make you feel? I'm going to show you something. I want to know how it makes you feel. Okay, here we go.
Where's the ink blot?
Yes.
So we, as you may know, have an advanced copy of this, and we will be doing our very first review of a set on Wednesday on our show with a little breakdown of the build. But so real quick, let's. I just want to hear what everybody thinks of this. Will you be building it or not? Do you find it fascinating? Do you find it not fascinating? Holly.
Yeah, that's a day one for me. Totally. I'm into typewriters. So
awesome. Yeah, very good. All right, Jamay.
I like it. I don't know. I would love to review it. I don't know if I would buy it for myself. That's how I think about things now. It's like if I'm able to review things, I would like to review this. It looks technically kind of amazing the way they got it to work.
Yeah.
But it's not a priority purchase for me.
Okay.
But I like the look of it. It would look great on a shelf.
Absolutely. Well, I think about this, the ship in a bottle and the globe that's going to be coming out, all together in a sort of little study situation would be really cool.
With a Labrador by the fire.
Exactly.
Yes.
Labrador by the fire. All right, Tara.
Absolutely, yes. Day one. Might even need to buy two so that Robert and I can each build our own.
Yes. Wow. And by the way, the fan designer of this, Steve Guinness, is an amazing builder. You should definitely check out his stuff on Instagram. And he's
made more than one.
Well, not only has he made more than one, he's made a micro one, and he was the winner of season 1 of Lego Masters UK. So he's got quite a reputation under his belt. Like really, the Brick Consultant, by the way, is his name on Instagram. Okay, Moto, typewriter thoughts.
I love it. I love it so much. I don't know if I'll buy it, but this is just a work of art and fantastic. And if I have time to build the grand piano, I think this would be right behind it.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Brian.
In the same vein as that grand piano, although an incredibly impressive model that is well designed and incredibly unique, it is not something that personally interests me. Therefore, will not be something I'll be buying.
Were there even typewriters when you were born? Like, hadn't they already gone away from that?
Glenn, I don't think there were even typewriters when I was born.
What?
There were typewriters when I was born because I had to take typing in middle school.
Oh my goodness!
I had to take typing in high school, and they made us use manual typewriters the first semester to build up the strength of our fingers.
Yeah, actually, my mom. So look, here's a real one, guys.
Yay.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to possibly even try to mod it in this color palette with the blue because it has Webster on it, which is my last
Very
name.
nice.
Yes.
Really cool. So there's a real typewriter, and I used to play on my mom's typewriter when I was a kid. Like she worked from home, and I would just sit there on the little typewriter pretending like I was working.
Well, what I love too.
Fun memories.
So Steve, the guy, the fan designer, has actually been releasing things to go builds that go with this one online, on his Instagram. And just like yesterday, he did whiteout, which
saw that.
all you youngins probably don't know about the
Yeah.
whiteout, but
Well, you know,
Hurt your hand trying to
so
shake it.
actually, when I was in high school, I think, or around more like middle school, I kind of remember my sister typing on it more, where we had a digital typewriter. So you could type in like a line at a time, and then you actually had the opportunity to backspace it before you sent it through the typewriter. That was like,
Yeah, brother
cutting
made a
edge.
bunch of those.
yep.
yeah.
Well, and I love that they chose to go with the sand green color. It's just so perfect. It's just so
Cool.
so
It's
vintage,
very retro.
right? Okay,
So
well,
that's the first little pass at the typewriter.
yes, and we'll be discussing it more in detail later, or Wednesday. So, okay. We are now going to head into that's later. We're now going to head into the breakdown of Lego Masters Season 2, Episode 2, and we actually have a extra special guest. I gave them the option of if they wanted to join today, no pressure, and she's here, so I'm so excited. And everybody, please welcome to the stream our very own
Please.
Dawn.
Yes!
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good to see
Hi,
you.
everybody.
I'm gonna.
So I have
See you
so
too.
I
There we
have
go.
to ask Dawn. So Lego building organized or chaos?
Yes,
Order or
or chaos.
I had to laugh when you were asking that because this room is an absolute mess. I think this next episode of Lego Masters, where they have the shake plates, it went through this room.
Oh yes. I saw that on the preview.
Yes, all the previews, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of defines the part here you can't see. I kind of tried to make it a little prettier back.
It looks pretty organized.
I was gonna say, you look like you got it together.
I do a
All
big
right.
swoop into a basket bin. It's like, okay, I gotta be able to do something on the computer now.
So we did decide we're not going to reveal.
Yeah, we're not going to reveal the ending
anything.
part until the end of the show, like we did last week, just so that you got like one last chance to get out before we tell you before we spoil it. But
Spoilers with warnings.
This is going to be full of spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet and you really don't want to know about what people built, if you are okay with that, stick around and we promise we will let everybody know before we reveal what happened at the end, sort of towards the last 15 minutes of the show.
And if you prefer to duck out, watch it in reruns.
11:15, right? So around 11:15, we'll be turning to that. We will give you fair warning. So, all right. So this week's episode is one that the challenge, I don't know if I could say near and dear to my heart.
A very similar challenge to this happened in season 1, and I personally found it very difficult.
Challenging? You found it very challenging?
It was one of the harder challenges we did.
It was. I mean, for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
And just to put it out there, talking about mental health, this was the episode for me where I had a panic attack, like on camera, and had to like run away, and it was really hard. I did come back, but it was extremely difficult because we are in a very, very tough situation. But I have to say that I liked the spin that they did on it this time. So this time, everybody was given you got to pick a minifig at random, and then what was going to explode out of your model. There was slime, glitter, my personal favorite, and also
and water.
Like I have a love-hate relationship, and water was the other one.
There was another one. Chalk.
And
Yeah,
colored
chalk.
dust. Right. Colored dust. That's right.
Right, that was very colorful.
Now, I will say, when we were first watching it, and this is, obviously we're going to be looking at comparisons between how we experienced it and what's changed. And I noticed the biggest change that I noticed was that everybody's explosion was the same type of explosion, which I think they learned something from last season, in my opinion, and this is my complete, true, unvarnished opinion, is that we were given different types of explosions, and I think it provided more difficult challenge to some than others.
And I think Will probably said, I am not hitting another mock with a bat ever again.
So this kind of spreads it. I think they learned from it, and this kind of like evens the playing field a little bit more, where the surprise is the effect and not the whole, not the whole thing. Sounds like I maybe mislabeled the title of the show. Not surprising. Anyway, we were talking about episode 2. Episode 3 hasn't come out yet, so I'll change that later in case I screwed it up. Sorry, everyone.
We can speculate.
So I'm curious, what did everybody think of this challenge overall? What did they think about it? And what do you think about it compared to the same challenge from season 1? Holly?
I mean, I like a good old baseball bat to the Lego build any day, but it was kind of cool. I mean, any opportunity to show slow motion Lego shattering is kind of like satisfying somehow. I know some people just cringe; they can't stand it, but I love it. I love that it's captured on camera. Like it's for the camera effect, and you get to watch it and you could replay it. Like that's how you do it. Like I thought I was like living for that moment, especially with all the colorful like bursts. I thought it was really fun.
Right.
Yeah. Some of the builds were really great too. I feel like
yes.
it's definitely stepping up. So I hope that trajectory continues.
For sure. Cara, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a more focused challenge than season 1. Season 1, the whole various exploding things seemed a little random.
Mm-hmm.
So this made it a little more fun to watch, just because.
Like a little more cohesive, right?
Cohesive is the good word. It's a good word, yeah. Again, the builds were great. There were so many great ideas, and it's really interesting to see all the storytelling that is coming out. I feel like the season 2 people really took a note from the season 1 people, where you have to tell a really good story with your bricks.
Right. So, Moto, as a contestant, and Dawn, I put this both to you. Like when you were presented with the challenge, and I'm sure noticed that it was a bit more focused. Were you relieved? Were you like, oh, I don't have to come up with something from scratch? Or and the other thing too is, did you anticipate before the episode? Did you anticipate that I bet you they're going to have another explosion challenge, or I bet you they're going to have another structural challenge? What were your thoughts on that, Moto?
Yeah, I thought this one was going to come from Australia. I thought it was going to hop to the US, and it did. The trouble was, once you get your figure, you can't anticipate all the different figures they could throw at you. So that was like, it wasn't much, like research wasn't an asset as much as some of the other ones could be, because the figures were kind of all over the CMF series. It wasn't like one dedicated CMF line you could research. They were all over the place. And then, once you get your figure, it's kind of like, okay, what are you going to do with this? And figuring out the story took us a while. Right. Coming up. Well, and I noticed that there were a few, like the violin guy, I know was tough. I mean, that was like when I saw the violin guy, I got that same feeling of Mark and Boone with the laptop.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Right. It was just like, and
I actually said, well, it's bad, but it's not violin person bad.
Sorry, Dave and Richard. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dave and Richard, they got the violin guy. And I said, well, it's tough, but it's not violin guy tough.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, what were your thoughts going into this? Like when you knew it was going to be an explosion challenge, like were you hoping it was going to be like season 1, or were you taken aback by the minifigure part?
The minifigure part really kind of surprised me, because as we were doing this, the video series had just come out, and I thought this is the perfect play in, we're going to have the video people, and I was like, there's 12 of them, there's 12 of us, 12 teams. So I was like, boom, 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 so that was what I was expecting we would get. When but then they started pulling out the minifigures. I'm like, okay, well, they're all over the place. So now I have no idea what we're going to get. It didn't really matter. We were the last team to draw. So there were only 12 minifigures in there, and we got what was left. So I was torn about the explosion, because obviously you don't blow up your own Lego, but those were our Lego, So it's like, okay, if they want to blow them up, but then we're also told anything that got blown up is no longer going to be in play for future episodes, because of the structure integrity, of the bricks themselves at that point. So it was like, well, and I was excited with what we got. I really was. So that's, and we got glitter, so yay.
I know, right?
Team glitter.
Yeah, you got glitter.
Hats and glitter.
I had a thought, Don. Early on with the check-in, I saw you all were building with 1x2 bricks. And in our first episode, I was working on the haunted house ride, which was a bunch of those. And I thought, oh my God, I'm building, and I'm not making any progress. Did you find the building with 1x2s was that nerve-wracking, or they looked great? It takes so long.
It takes a while, but what we did was, we were making columns so that they would break away. And every so often I would put, we'd put tiles in instead of plates or something. So the tiles didn't have anything to snap to. So this thing was falling apart as we were building it. So so it actually, it should have fallen apart. It should have fallen totally apart.
Well, I think that was the one thing that maybe a lot of people in the viewing audience didn't quite, I don't know, think about, like, when watching, is there was a very delicate balance between building something that would stay together. Now, y'all were lucky. We actually had to carry ours from the table to the podium, which was a nightmare and was its own whole thing, right?
Yeah, we had to carry our stuff and set it down and mount it as well.
Oh, you did?
They should have shown that, because
I didn't see that.
so much complexity.
No, we had to roll it. We had to roll it.
Apart.
We had to roll it into the space and then lift it up and then properly slide it into place and mount it. And then they would come in and mount it and then wire it up and then blow it for us.
That's terrifying.
Oh my goodness.
That's so stressful.
Now, did they tell you that was going to be part of the challenge?
Yep.
Okay, they did. So yeah, and they didn't even show it, which they sort of didn't do with us either. But man, that's tough.
No, and then there was something with the surface, and luckily the first team, Brian and Lauren, were able to relay back the texture and kind of the grip of the surface, so we could plan better as the rest of us went through it.
Got it.
But they were really the first ones in, trying to experiment how to get that thing slided into the wedge and locked in place.
Hey, Next Gen Smarty Pants is here.
Then I have to ask you both a question.
That's my partner.
Hi.
Yeah.
I have to ask you both a question, Moto and Dawn. I'm sorry, I'm full of questions. When we did this, there were these LED lights down the central aisle of the studio, so that they could have zooming lighting effects. And when we rolled our tables over those, it gave a bounce every single time we went to the gallery. Did you have that experience?
Yes, it was uneven. And you had to know, okay, we are approaching the lights, then we kind of move really slow, and then we can quote unquote speed up, but you don't go very fast, because this thing's gonna fall apart if you do anything to it, so.
Yeah, the LED striping was a bump barrier. There's Plex on the floor for cables, that was a bounce barrier. There was an uneven tile to the right, to one unit up to the left on the right-hand side.
Of course, you knew exactly where it was. I love you.
Well, you memorize the brick pit. You might well memorize the way the floor's going to hit your stuff as you go. So
right.
So Jamay, what are your thoughts on this this challenge as compared to the version from season 1, or just as a challenge in general?
Yeah, first off, I feel like it makes me really sad to see it get blown up, and the bat to me felt so personal. So I'm kind of glad that we got a little depersonal with the explosions across the board.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think giving people a minifigure really forces them into a certain scale, and so it changed the way that it was a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know if it was for the better, but it was interesting to have it be different and have it be more prescribed, and then it forces you, it kind of makes up some of the storytelling for you, so you can kind of really get to building, which I feel like is helpful, because to sit there with a blank slate is a little stressful, I can imagine.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, another thing to consider is when you look at the wedge, a lot of people are ducking down and putting their eyes at that wedge because it was a forced perspective camera shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have to build the recession in space and the scales of recession in space into your build. And like if you put something here as a blocking what's behind it, as far as that, it's just that one camera angle you're building for.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. Yeah. Another interesting take is that you know we were definitely building for the camera in this one. So what do you think, Brian? What do you think about the comparisons there, or as a challenge in general?
I like the idea that you have to take what you build, and it kind of makes you separate yourself from the story that you might come up with. Like you might want to build something that you put all of your heart and soul into, and that's obviously great, but then it's going to get exploded, right? You got to think of a way that it's going to come apart in a very calculated way, so it kind of divorces yourself from making sure every single little detail is perfect. Like it has to be, but it also has to come apart very tactfully. So I like that aspect of it. I thought some of the types of explosions were not quite as grandiose as I think they wanted it to be on camera. And I would have preferred a little bit more consistency, maybe one less of the, take away either the slime or the dust, or take one of them away and have it be a bit more consistent, not just so the builders could have a bit more control over what they were going to do, but just to get like a more of a pop, Maybe some of those minifigures weren't quite matched up with the proper effect, but there's definitely better combinations that could have made for, I think, better storytelling and just better on-camera presence also.
Well, I definitely felt like the slime in particular didn't have quite the bang that the other ones did.
Which one had the slime again? One of the builds?
There were two brothers.
Yeah, it was
it with the potions?
There was Zach and Tim, I think, who had the potion bottle or the chemical bottles, and then I think Zach and Wayne with their alien.
Yeah, the alien space, which one definitely has one.
But
the thing is, when you're viewing all that in such a fast pace too, like a lot of it you don't even register. Like, there's an explosion, but like, okay, does the slime affect the build in a particular sort of way, or is it just an explosion for the sake of an explosion?
Well, just what I noticed with the slime was it didn't really it doesn't break apart in the way that dust or glitter or whatever. Like a couple of them, it was just like a big blob came flying out, which was unfortunate. But
there also was a side effect. So the side effect of the liquids versus the powders was that when the charge for the powders went off, if you had chalk or glitter, it would blow out, and if you had a hard surface, it would just pop that because there's no resistance. But with a liquid, when you fire an explosive into a liquid, it pushes back originally because it is denser. So the density of that will create a shock wave into whatever your explosive is mounted to. So we saw the result of one of the liquids had an effect on the build because it actually shook the table when it went off, whereas the powders tend to just pop and crack and then it's up in the air.
So you think the liquids actually pushed harder on the structure?
From the density, you had to. Well, that was my theory, and then kind of you saw a little bit of a ripple effect going through some of the plastic bases for the more of the liquid ones if they weren't suspended up a little bit.
Right. Hey, so
like the fountain, you could see in the fountain, you could see the kind of a little one frame of a shock down before it went up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a little pause here.
We're late.
Pause, but we're gonna have a pause. It seems a good time for a pause to refresh, and then we're going to talk about the individual builds. Now, obviously, we're not going to have the time to go around and get everybody's opinions on every build, so we're going to kind of swap it around a little bit. But for now, it's time for the pause that refreshes everybody. Yes, it is Logan cookie time. Hi, Logan is here. Hi, Logan. Say hi to everybody.
It's his favorite song.
It is.
I love that now he's kind of a puppet too.
He is a puppet. It's because he's
trying to be more like Skittles.
Trying to be more like Skittles,
say hi to
exactly.
everyone. Wagging your tail.
Oh, that's Yay, Logan. Let's see who else is here. Skittles is here. Hi, Skittles.
Skittles is back.
Yay,
Skittles.
Skittles is here. Moto's got nice. That's a nice cookies. I need those. I love that little dog too.
Yeah, I got a hug for Caleb and Jacob.
Oh, awesome. Oh, Lego Logan is here. What have we got? Brian, what have you got there?
I have a horse from the blacksmith shop.
Oh, well, that's every horse is awesome, Brian. It's
there
all good. What do we got? Yay!
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters. All right, everybody. That was, in fact, Logan cookie time. And what did you get there, Dawn? You had something going on there, and I missed it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I just had it's Max, but it's my dog mostly.
Yay! I love Max.
Everyone gets a cookie.
I kind of just want to sit with Skittles here all day because, like, we had quite a scare with her this week. So I just want to, like, I'm just going to be over here with Skittles.
Yay!
Right. Skittles is welcome anytime.
So glad that went well.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different builds, and there's a lot. There's many builds.
There's a lot. Yep,
There's
a
12.
lot.
There are 12 entire builds. And last week we didn't get to dive too much into the individual builds, but I at least want to go over them and just sort of like the general feelings about them and such. So first we had Caleb and Jacob, the brothers, twins, who did a great build with the flying saucers. I loved their old school flying saucers. They were so fun. And their explosion, I'm so glad that I'm not sure now, how many charges were you all offered? Like, did they give you 3? 3? Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like that they chose to put them in the individual ships because it created a great thing. So what are just some quick impressions, everybody? Let's go around the circle and just get some quick impressions of this of the build. Holly.
Of which build? I don't even know what we're talking about.
The spaceships.
Caleb and Jacob, the twins who did the UFOs.
UFO with
those
Rocket
were-
Boy.
Yeah, those were awesome. Like, yeah, I'd say those are probably in my top 3, maybe.
They were fun.
Yeah.
Cara, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought they were great. It was really on theme, and you're right. Where they placed the charges was well thought out.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joel, we can't show pics of the builds. That's not in our purview. We're not. That's not.
I know.
Something...
I was like, it would be helpful because I haven't watched it since Tuesday, so it'd be helpful if I could like see them as a refresher. But I definitely remember my favorites for sure. I remember.
Yeah,
Dawn
we would be in
Moto's.
trouble.
Yeah, it's not really. Don't really have permission for that.
Yeah.
Moto, you were there.
I was there. I was there. I loved the UFO build. They were there and then they weren't, and all that was left was glitter, just like they said.
I know exactly. Dawn.
Yeah, I think they did a very, very good job at elevating them and mounting them off their back plate. That was really, really smart. It was really good. It was cool to watch. It was neat.
Yeah, I know, just like, because what we see on screen is very different. Of course, than what you see a build in person, like close up, right? Jamay, what do you think about UFOs?
I mean, I love UFOs. I love space. Yeah, they looked great. I liked the nostalgic, like classic look. And then, like you said before, Moto, with the forced perspective, like the fact that they were hovering was like excellent.
Yeah. Yep. Brian?
Very calculated, very excellent job where they placed the charges, and I'm always a fan of space as well. It's a solid choice.
Very cool.
You know, something we haven't heard about is the challenge with those charges is you actually have to build a cavity in and an exit point for the wires, right? So that really affects the structure of your build, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Very much so.
Okay, so then we had Dave and Richard who had the violin guy, and I gotta say, like when I first saw their pick, I was like, oh guys, and then just like Mark and Boone, they turned out a really amazing build out of something that could have been really very difficult to deal with. So let's start with Brian this time. Brian, what was your thoughts on the violin exploding music factory thing?
I think it's a skill to take such a really interesting minifigure and to attribute a story to it in a particular vision. And that is such an oddball figure to get served up for a hero. And they just made it make sense in a way that wasn't forced, and that is such an art. And I'm very happy that they did it very well, and some of the musical notes remained intact as everything came down.
Yeah,
is perfect, and had great symbolism with it, great story with it.
Yeah, agreed. Jamay, what do you think?
Yeah, I liked how cartoony it felt, like a comic book strip almost, and like the layers that they had with like the music notes, and then. Now I'm thinking about the forced perspective thing a lot. Because I had recognized it, but now I'm like, oh yeah, that was really smart to have things recede into the distance and get bigger in scale, and then they zoom back out. So I thought that was really nice framing.
Yeah, I gotta say I was a little jealous of that because that's like forced perspective is like our thing that we do a lot. And I was like, oh man, what we could have done with that.
Yeah.
So Kara, what do you think? What did you think of the exploding factory violin boy?
I mean, they had such a difficult figure to make a story out of, and they really knocked it out of the park. I was really impressed with the story they came up with.
Agreed. All right, so like I said, we're gonna I'm gonna get different people up different times, but let's move on to the next one. Brian and Lauren with the giant frog. Now, speaking of forced perspective, I think of all the builds, they played that card really, really well. Like that 3-dimensional, like the tongue coming out and the bigger frog in the background. It just created such a sense of scale. And I thought it was really, really, really quite good.
Well, it reminds me of those old 3D movies, like early 3D movie, where it's like Jaws 3, it's coming at you.
It's coming right at your face. Holly, what do you think about the frog?
Yeah, I'm with you. The composition is what really sold it very well. It was like really focused, like they pulled the focus to like the primary part of the build. They kind of focused on that one thing to build, which is also really smart when you're in a timed challenge that you don't have too many things like that require your attention. They could really just focus on that one build, that one thing, and just get it, again, telling the story, getting it composed correctly, like building just enough around it to make it interesting. So checked a lot of boxes, which I think is why it won. Sorry. I just spoiled it. I knew I was going to do it. Yeah. I wish we'd save that one till last.
So, moving on.
Hope anybody watching knew there were going to be spoilers. So.
Moto, he's gone.
I'm back. I'm back.
Moto and Dawn, actually, this is a question for you. Like, I think we can all agree that that was one of those ones. Like, I know there were many times when we were building, there's always one or two builds that are happening on the floor that you just look over and you're like, oh man, wow, okay. What was that one for you because I know y'all like looked around.
Yeah, you do, but you don't because you're so focused on what you're doing.
Right.
And there's a stream of all that technological stuff in the way a lot of times.
Yeah.
As they're filming a TV show, but you look up and they were across the aisle and down a few tables from where Jack and I were, and I looked up and I'm like, you could see it from miles away. That big green frog, and it was just like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. So we did take a trip out and walk over and check that one out at one point.
That was like I remember like on the first episode looking over and seeing that Ferris wheel that Aaron built and Christian, and I was just like, oh, okay. It's gonna be tough. Right.
It's like pack your bags, it's done.
Moto, what did you think when you first saw this frog coming together?
I didn't see it coming together. I saw it when it was finished. I didn't know. This one was really tough. I knew the dragons and the sea serpent and the paint cans and one other was like, in the last one, it's like, yeah, I think I have a lock on the dragons. This one I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out because there was so many explosions that were so amazing.
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't know how this whole thing's gonna wash out. I would like to say that this one was amazing because they had a near miss of getting their figure wiped out by an element.
Yeah, that's right. I did see that. You can see it in the slow-mo, like this big pink brick, like part of the tongue comes flying at it, and I was like,
the tongue came flying at it. It hit the detonator. Yeah, it hit the detonator part of the build and split. Luckily, it did a nice split around the figure. But that was one of I'd say the two close call builds where it was like they almost had a figure get wiped off the board.
Oh my goodness!
It's funny. I think there was a certain amount of chance involved. Like no matter
Don is like, darn.
Well, no matter how well you design the enclosure for the explosion and the things that break apart, there's always a chance one brick's going to take out the figure, and that would really affect your story.
There is a lot of luck involved. Like you guys could be like as calculated as you possibly be, but you still really don't know what's going to happen. That was sort of the thrilling part of it, at least as a spectator, but I can only imagine as a builder, like just knowing like you're putting all that effort in and having no idea what's going to happen.
All right. So Maria and Philip, who had the cabaret singer, and they did that great like Vegas style hotel with like the water and the fountain. This was one in particular where I thought they really used their storytelling was really good. They took the singer and the water thing. They just went together. Like you wouldn't think cabaret singer and water, but their line of thinking with the fountain and and how Vegas has all the big fountains outside, I thought was a really clever take on it. What do you think, Jamay?
Yeah, I felt like it was really theatrical, which was great. Where it really played into the story, and you could like almost hear the high note or something that she was like gonna hit to like break it, and the things and everything, right? Because she had the benefit of having like the face that was expressive. So for the violin boy, like the guy, he like had his eyes closed, but it's like passive in that way. But hers felt very exciting, which was cool.
Brian, what do you think?
So during the show, they did like a 2-minute sequence of like, we're going to show 6 teams in 2 minutes, and they cut really quick. And that was one of the teams. So I didn't get a chance to really look at it in detail. And I mean, we saw through the process, but they definitely succeeded with color when they were setting up the hotel, having, the not quite as colorful buildings on the side. They made it a focal point to highlight that. And water was perfect for what they did with it. And I was just surprised they came up with that character as one to be chosen, and like the whole thing. I was like, okay, that's a oddball character, all right, but they made it work, and it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, and it's just such a great fig too. I love that one. Okay, so Mark and Steven, brothers, they got the plant monster, and with the and they did sort of like the big watermelon, like the sort of big watermelon monster. My thought on it, well, first of all, they were the victim of a minifigure that fell over, which not
right. So did that not qualify them for? Like, how did that work? Because they made it seem like, okay, your figure can't fall off, it can't, and then it does, and then nothing happens. Like, what? You know?
No, we were clearly told that it was not a disqualifying factor. So that was one difference in US, but it was a weighted consideration.
Well, I will say at first we saw, we love using the mallets. And they don't show anybody using mallet. No, actually didn't
they showed Paras.
Didn't Paras use it? And he was like knocking on. I just remember going, I don't care, or whatever it was he said, like while he was banging it. I laughed so hard. But they showed a close-up of somebody like using the mallet to knock their minifig, and I was like, what a weird thing. And then I realized
it's a minifig with a mallet.
And then I realized, oh, of course, that was you. Was it you, Moto? Because it was the elf. It was.
I didn't mallet a figure, but Paras, I think, was out front doing something at one point. I was giving him the greasy eyeball, but it worked out. So I don't even care.
And whatever, like I get it. Like we need, like that figure needed to stay on and couldn't come off. I just thought it was such an odd image to use when we hadn't really, like, the audience wasn't really expressed to us, I don't think, until later that was a requirement. Like it kind of came out later when they were doing the judging about it, but
when they said, "Oh,"
they never
said it a couple different
said
times. Will said it a couple different times about your minifigure must not fall off.
Yeah, I heard it early on. Yeah.
Okay. I try to remember everything.
Because we were kind of like that was the cringy part of watching the explosions, is like anticipating if the minifigs were going to get blown away or not. Yeah.
Right. And I've watched this episode a couple times already to make sure I'm saying what was shown, and not what we heard on set versus what was shown, because that changes. Things change.
Yeah, because the whole point.
My apologies. I'll just say this: I didn't catch it when I was watching it because, like, let's be honest, the show is cut like so it's easy to lose your way and like, what did they say? What did they not say? But Dawn and Moto, I feel you on that, because I remember when I was watching the show, I had a lot of memories of things that we did that didn't show up on the show, and then I was like, wait, later on I was like, wait, did they show that, or did I dream it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean everybody was anxious to see whether their figure was still on, still up or not, because there's shielding and protection and camera gear in the way, and you can't see it.
You can't see it as it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear the pop or the crack. Right. It was more like a crack. You hear the crack, and you see all the bits come flying out toward you, and they scatter over the floor, and they're everywhere.
You were watching it on a screen?
Well, they have to. Then they have to spin up the data file for you, and then they display it.
We watched it on the screen.
Oh, so you're not watching it live.
Yeah, it's where you see the explosion live, but you can't see the model. It's behind all this barrier stuff, and then
you had a barrier?
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure, but there might have been a safety officer on set who said, the fact that contestants were hit with bricks is probably, we shouldn't do that next time.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a Mythbusters scale barrier, but there was, Plex and stuff up. But
right. Okay,
there wasn't.
I want to continue on because we are going to run out of time, and I want to make sure we at least touch on all the builds. So just quick impressions. What were your thoughts about the watermelon monster plant guide build, Holly?
I liked that it looked like its brains were exploding. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Jamay, what do you think?
Yeah, and I like the vibrant red on the inside, which feels like gory, but also playful.
Yeah.
Right.
Good choice.
Cara, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everyone else there. It was fun, and brains, very Plants versus Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very fun.
I felt like the way it came apart was very deliberate and planned.
Yeah. Well, they seem like careful planners, the two of them. Okay, Natalie and Michelle, with the coffee thing. Well, first of all, I gotta say, it made me think so much of something that Amy and Crystal would have done. Like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is so Amy and Crystal. Like I just like saw that in it.
The bubbles, the colors.
And I have to say, like, I wasn't sure how it was going to explode, but the fact that the lid of the coffee cup came off and then like stuff came out of it, I thought was really clever. I just thought that was so smart. Brian, what were your thoughts on this one?
That was, I believe, also another one. I'm actually looking on. I got Hulu in another tab right now, and I'm like, let me scrub through and try to see.
Which is something you can do, friends.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a refresher here. I'm gonna
idea.
rewatch the episodes before we do this show again, just to get a refresher. Yeah. No, but that's another unique concept and something that I found a bit interesting with how many people they had on the minifigures they had on the table. And then in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, if things explode and then like minifigures get hit with the debris, is that still like cool? Is like, what's the presentation like there? But overall, it was a successful build that I liked.
Well, I also thought it was one of those ones where the story could have become convoluted or overwhelming, but it wasn't. Like, it was just kind of perfect and made total sense. I loved the whole decaf coffee thing was hilarious because I would blow that place up. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Who is this? Paris and Matto? I don't know if I remember who they are.
Motto.
Paris and Moto. Yeah.
It's motto, like tomato.
That makes me think of George Takei. I don't know if you ever saw the roast of who played Captain Kirk,
William Shatner,
and he was there. George Takei was in the audience, and he was like, he's like, you've always said my name wrong. You always said Takei. And he's like, but it's actually Takei, like to pay. So good. Anyway, moving on from there.
Okay, the dam.
So the dam. Tell us about this, Moto. Let's get some behind the scenes on the dam.
Ours, I think, after hearing from everybody, ours is built very differently. So on this one, Paris and I changed roles a bit. I did all of the engineering while he was doing all the aesthetics across the front lawn or the front area. But I spent about half the time building in 3 sets of boxes or drawers with tiles on top that would slide in and out. And then it had a medieval style post that would slide through the back through slots to lock them into place. And I put little caution printed tiles from town on the end. So really the explosive person just had to slide the bolt out, pull the drawers, pack the explosives, slide them back in and lock it. And then from there,
wow,
it was all designed.
It
was all like a shaped charge system where the drawers led to some slopes channels with the different, then the rainbow pattern was packed separately. And so it would go up and spread a rainbow because we had water. So the idea was, what's amazing with water once it's in the air, and we're thinking a rainbow, and no one else, had different color effects to loft it. So that was our big idea. And then the front part of the dam was breakaway panels and hopefully some water spray when it blew. And last of all, we had the closest call of all of them. A brick came ricocheted off the tree a couple times, and then one actually knocked the sword out of her hand.
Oh,
so I don't know. Yeah, most people miss it, but the brick was so close it actually knocked the figure's weapon off of her grip.
Wow!
Like right over the shoulder. So that
you had an amazing fountain of colorful 1x1s, like really bold color in those 1x1 bricks.
Yeah,
from what I hear, we had friendly colors, and you guys maybe didn't. But I made great use of those friendly colors to get the rainbow pattern up.
Yeah, that was the thing. I believe, if I remember correctly, when we did our version, we were the only team to put like a color story of bricks into what exploded out. Like I know Sam and Jessica used the dogs and cats and had that thing going on. But I remember when we were there, everybody else was like, wow, you guys, like like purposely picked the colors that went inside. Like we just were so desperate, we were just throwing bricks in. So I really appreciated Moto that that rainbow burst was very clever and well thought out.
I was just happy. I was happy the burst went up. I was like, I'm done. That's good. We'll get a rainbow pattern.
The red on the dam was a bold choice because like a gray Hoover dam would not have read as well on camera.
Right.
So those red panels really popped.
Yeah, for some reason I just put them on there because I remember that a lot of the dam blocks are red because they use anti-rust paint and it's a red paint. So I just went with it.
All right. So we next we have Susan and Jen with the Wizards library and the giant spider. Now I don't think that we are qualified to talk about giant spiders in this instance. So I think I'd like to hear from some of the others of you. Dawn, what was your take being there in the studio and seeing that one come together?
It was very interesting because I was looking because they have such detail in their bookcases and all that kind of stuff, but they had 3 separate freestanding builds on that, and it was really, really interesting. I kind of glanced up a couple different times. I'm like, I wasn't sure what they were going for at that time, but it came together awesome. It really did. And the storyline and everything that they came up with was really good.
Awesome. Jamay, what do you think of the Wizards and the Wizard spider versus spider?
Yeah, I love a good enlargement potion. So I feel like that's I like the story, and it's again the perspective of having something big and then having it go away. That's pretty good and pretty classic.
Yeah, well, I loved the amount of detail that they put into those, and I can only imagine how that was. Like we were talking about earlier, with building with 1x2 bricks is such it's time consuming, right? Mm-hmm. And I can only imagine that bit was a bit time consuming. Brian, what do you think?
This one using glitter helped it tremendously pop.
Yeah,
it was very, very impressive and fit for the wizard and just the color palette that Lego allows you to have. I think not that every team had their own advantages and disadvantages by having the figure and the element that they had, but this one definitely suited itself very nicely to having this combination, and they took it in stride, and it was magical to see it explode on camera slow-mo.
Absolutely.
I thought the explosion was very balanced as well because the whole bottom of the right-hand bookcase sort of shot out like this.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
It was banging.
So next up, Cyrita and Randall, the centaur and the evil wizard. Oh man, I felt for them so hard. And I loved Cyrita's. She said, I know negative 49% about centaurs.
Let's
Randall
blow it
was
up
all
already.
117% of stress.
Yes. Yes. And Randall was like, I don't know anything about, I've never looked into this at all. So I feel like they did the best given their because it's hard building something that you're not knowledgeable in the subject matter.
But they
must be
fantasy.
it must be incredibly difficult. Holly, what did you think of this build?
Yeah, same as you. I was kind of hurting for them through that challenge, but I love that they embraced it, and I think it was kind of the perfect challenge to not be familiar with because at the end you get to blow it up. So there's some satisfaction in that.
Oh, she was definitely ready to blow it up.
She was so ready.
She was ready.
We'll do now. That's how I felt when we had ours. I was like, can we please just wipe this from everyone's memory, please? Kara, what do you think?
The same. I just felt for them so much, but I think they did their best, and they did a nice castle wall background, and I think they had a solid standing. They knew they weren't going to win. They knew they just needed to not lose.
Right.
My worry about their piece when we saw it coming together is that that technique of the 1x2s and cylinders is very flexible, and I felt like it was going to be pretty strong in the explosion. But it was so colorful, I thought it looked great.
All right, Jack and Dawn.
Who are
Dawn, what do you think? Tell us what you think of this build.
Who is this shock in this
awesome.
build?
Give us a little backdrop on your background on your build, like kind of like how Moto did with his. What do you think?
Well, we built so the main floor was probably a little more sturdy, and then the upstairs was going to explode. We did do a safe. I think it was a 4x4x6 cube, basically, and that's where we had the explosives go in. And then on top of that, we put our bits to be exploded, and I hand-picked brighter colors. I mixed the colors. I didn't go separate colors the way Moto separated his. But I've tried to put bright colors, but not too big of pieces, so that they would, they'd come up and they'd explode, and you'd see all these different colors, because the jewels are going to be different colors.
Right.
And
that safe seems really smart to contain the explosion for more force.
Right. So we did that, and we had it kind of tipped forward so that it would take out the upstairs and the sign, and the telephone poles were designed so that it would kind of buffer and keep parts from going to the jewel thief and knocking her off.
Oh, that's so
Nice.
clever. What a clever thing to do. I
Wow.
love
The telephone poles.
The two telephone poles on either end had flexi tubes up between the barrels, the little round, 1x1 barrel things. So we had flexi tubes up to there, but the middle one didn't. So it was going to collapse. But we had those telephone wires, basically, with the little bars on each section of that, and we brick built birds to put on there too. I mean, we had a lot of details, and we probably should have put a few more details out front. But it was a middle of the night, barren street in a small town. They roll up sidewalks. There's nobody there. So that was how our story, went.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought the buildings were very detailed. Did you have little light fixtures on the front of them? I loved especially the fine detail of the telephone poles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so we and those were put there for a purpose, they served their purpose. They kept things from going, after our minifigure. So, and at one point, I think we were asked, well, are you going to put minifigures out front? And I'm like, I can't blow up minifigures. I can blow up bricks are just whatever, I can resupply bricks, but minifigures are precious to me. And so I didn't want to populate and blow up all these little teeny people.
Well, when we did the Mega City Challenge, when the twist came and we had to attack the city, somebody was very upset about having to scare the minifigures and destroy the building.
I did not shed tears about breaking apart our paradise getaway for minifigs. I absolutely did not shed a tear over that. but that said, Flynn was like, just think about the monster. Put yourself in the perspective of the monster. And I was like, oh,
be the
right.
monster.
Right.
All right. So we had Zach and Tim, the father and son, who did the factory with they had the mad scientist figure, and they had those great Erlenmeyer the big test tube flask things. I'm calling it the wrong thing, but this isn't a science show. So I'm curious. Moto's like, you're killing me. So Jamay, what did you think of Zach and Tim's build with the mad scientist?
Yeah, I like the big glass beakers. I don't know what to call them. Sorry, Moto.
Test tubes.
Test tubes. I don't know.
Were they test tubes?
Well, they were the round at the bottom, and then the tall, skinny one. Yeah,
like the Lego
Erlenmeyer
piece.
flasks.
There we go.
I thought that was the
Erlenmeyer
triangle shaped one.
Oh my
Erlenmeyer
goodness.
Is that what
Anyway,
they were?
please
Anyway.
continue.
Those were great. I'm trying to remember. Did this explosion not go the way they wanted it to?
Yeah, it was supposed to have a front wall that flopped down, and then they had a little sign that said "Pow." And I thought when I heard the idea, I was like, "That's really cool," but you don't have that much control over what's going to happen.
Well, there wasn't one of those force containers,
Right.
Behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that was.
And I don't think that the wall that was supposed to fall down, I think was probably built too sturdily. If it had crumbled, it might have been better.
Yeah, it would have been great to see that wall come down. It's a shame that that happened, because sort of seemed to be a mark against them. What do you
think it was on a hinge, right? Where they were just kind of, weren't they just anticipating that there was going to be enough like impact that it was like flimsy enough that it would fall down?
Yeah, I don't think there was a roof over it, so it seems like it was pretty open for the force to destroy.
Yeah. They've thought about it, and it was sort of one of those Mark and Boone roller coaster kind of mechanism things that just got mashed at the last minute.
It was a good concept.
Got offset.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Brian?
I think if I were, I mean, it's tough for me to say, being in those circumstances, how I would have done it differently. But I feel like I would have made sure that even if there were no explosion or anything, if it was one little thing that kind of made that front facade come down, then that would trigger it. Like if there was a piece or something because that was such a focal point of the build, and to leave that to something that you really don't have control over, I'm like, that's a big gamble. That's a really big gamble. And that would have been the icing on the cake for it. But I think it still succeeded in exploding, and those, whatever we want to call them, they're exploding in the way that they did was still impressive. But that was a big piece that just didn't hit the way it should have. And it's unfortunate. But
Right. Well, and then Monica says, it seems kind of a shame that they were docked points for something that was supposed to be bonus points. But I think the problem was that I don't want this to sound bad, but they made a big deal out of it. Like they made they
already revealed that it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was big, central.
Like
to the story.
if we hadn't known it was going to happen, or like weren't anticipating it happening, it may have landed a little differently.
It still would have been problematic because the building was supposed to explode, and that whole center piece, what was front and center of their build, basically stayed completely intact. That was the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but that was
our winners from last week, Zach and Wayne with their orange alien creature. Now, I got to say, it was really cool. And again, I want to point to this, though, because it's important, and I see it. Repeatable shapes. Repeatable shapes. It worked for Tyler and Amy. It worked for these guys in their dragon build. And I think it was, again, successful in this one as well. I think my only quibble with it was I found it difficult to focus because there was so much orange going on. And I think part of that is, the quick cuts and all that. I wish I would have had more time to focus and appreciate it. Holly, what do you think?
Yeah, it was an outstanding, like visually, aesthetically, a really outstanding piece by itself. It was like definitely one of my top 3 builds as a whole. But I thought where it was lacking this week was the story. Like I don't even remember the story that they told with it, which tells you that it wasn't apparently very memorable somehow. So I feel like that's kind of where that box that didn't get checked that kept them out of
the top. Yeah. John,
that's part of the editing. I think that was part of the editing because on set the story there was a lot more. Everybody had a lot more story, obviously, than what you heard. So that made a difference.
Right, of course.
But it also didn't come through visually like some of the other builds. Like even just looking at it, to me, I didn't see a story there. It just looked like a cool build. Whereas some of the other ones, there was a story just from even you could tell what was going on just from looking at it.
Right. Yeah. And Jamay, what did you think of this one?
I thought it was pretty stunning. But again, I don't remember the minifigure. I don't quite remember the story. They have a mastery of like color together, I think, like the blue thing. I don't quite remember what it was supposed to be, but whatever was like kind of crashing into the side and with the orange is like, that's a mastery of color theory and understanding that. But yeah, it's impressive, but I think it's also hard now to expect certain things from them. So then the things that they maybe don't do as well become glaringly obvious, and it's where other people shine. So it's like, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the future.
Absolutely.
The golden brick weighs heavy.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Not that we would know, but yes. From what I've heard, that is a truism.
Allegedly. Mm-hmm.
Allegedly.
Okay, so we are now at the time of the show where we are going to talk about the end. So if you haven't seen it yet and we haven't already spoiled it enough for you, it's the time to go. That was nothing against you, Holly. I was just talking about the things. So here we go. We the winners of this challenge. Well, we were the in the top two were we had the frog build, Brian and Lauren, and then we had Dave and Richard with their violin guy. And for them to pull out, again, like we talked about, that difficult character and pull off something so amazing, and with the storytelling and everything, was just like super great. And I wanted to, and of course, the winners were Brian and Lauren with their frog build, which I think, again, it was one of those builds where from the very first revealing of the idea and the drawing of it, I was like, that's one to watch for.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is one that's going to be one to watch for. And we kind of already went over this in detail earlier, but yeah, really great build, well-deserved win. Absolutely. Now we come to what I can honestly say was not my favorite part of the episode at all. And we had to say goodbye to Jack and Dawn. And Dawn, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Doing that.
That's difficult. I'm sorry, but we watched the episode, and I got serious. Like I full on cried. Like I just, for me, it was that like, we have this relationship that we have with you. So of course we were rooting for you. We are team slow-mo, like all the way. Having that, not only having to see you go, but also that memory of what those moments were like, not only from when we got sent home ourselves, but that feeling of being in the studio when somebody else had to leave was devastating.
That's the hard part, is watching everybody else cry on the show. That's
Exactly. And
well, that moment of turning in the minifigs was so, like, as much as it reads on the show, for me personally, that moment, not only seeing the other teams do that, but putting those minifigs in was very hard for me. I became very attached to those little figures.
Yeah. So, no, go ahead.
I didn't have a chance to get attached to them. We only had an episode and a half or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, well. Alrighty. Up there, I loved them, except I did have them change my hair, but other than that,
Me too.
It's good. It's all good. Don't worry. Yeah. He had like some kind of like mad professor, like, I don't know, Einstein
just
thing.
take the headpiece off. I'll just be a stud. That's fine.
Right.
So, but I gotta say, and I think I speak for everyone here, although I'd like, and the people in the chat, we are so proud of you. And to see how far you have come in just the last year, I mean, going from literally not having done a lot of Lego to being on the show is like massive. Yep.
So I went from a nobody to a Lego star.
Oh, there you go.
Amazing.
And this was done in jest. This was actually for a mosaic challenge that I was doing, but it's like, you know what? I just started giggling, thinking, what the heck? Why not? Have some fun at my own expense. It was a lot of fun, and it was. I do want to thank everybody here in the stream that's listening now or in the future, to thank them for all the support that they have given me from day one. That includes the panel and everybody else. But if not for all this love and support you guys have given me, I wouldn't have had thought that I could even fathom doing what Jack and I did. Aww. So it's because of you guys we were there.
Well, you were also there because of your talent, which is incredible, and also like you are prolific. Like the amount of builds that you put out. I mean, I am constantly blown away by your output of work.
This is what I've been doing while we've been talking. Every waking moment, there's something.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, and I mean, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I will just say that I felt, for what it's worth, me personally, I felt like there were a couple of other builds that I favored less than yours.
Right.
That's just,
yeah. Well, when they named Tim and Zach as the first couple in the bottom team in the bottom two, I thought, okay, we might be safe. We should be safe. I honestly thought we were safe. We weren't obviously one of the top 5 or whatever, but I honestly thought we were safe. So it was a real shock to me when they did call our name.
Yeah.
Well, I think and something else that I would like everybody in the audience and the panel to understand is, like, the emotions are already very high, and we, like, as contestants on there, have to live through that moment twice. Not only
or more. It depends on how much you watch it. So
right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, but I just mean, like, not only do you have to experience it in real time when it happens, but then you have this moment of, I mean, and I know, Dawn, like, for us, when I knew it was going to be the episode that we were going home, I was just like, I didn't know if I wanted to watch it. I didn't know if I could watch.
But I had the same feeling, and everybody says, last week everybody said, so we having a watch party here again, and I'm like, you guys can come watch if you want. There's not going to be any, I'm not going to do anything special. And luckily nobody showed up. Because I'd have been a basket case, I had a lot of people call me afterwards, but I just couldn't face anybody in real life while it was showing on the screen.
Sure, I completely 100% understand, and I think any of us would feel that way, right? I mean, like, it's a very personal thing.
I don't think I'd be able to watch it at all if I was on there.
Yeah.
Well, but can you speak a little bit to what I feel must have been a great adventure to have that surreal experience with those millions of bricks and building with other talented builders all around you, with your brother? That had to be unlike anything else, right?
Right.
It was, and they did keep it in the editing where I said it was a fairy tale. It was something that I never would have imagined. I mean, when I first saw the first episode of season 1, I'm looking at that as like, that looks like it's something fun I might be able to do with a sibling. And I had a different sibling in mind at the time, but that it didn't work out that way. Some of you know who I'm talking about, but but that didn't work out, and they said, well, find somebody else, and so when I told Jack about it, and he hadn't really watched much of it, he'd heard of it, but hadn't really watched it. So he went and watched it, talked to his wife about it, and they says, yes, and we were both looking, and my husband, the same thing. It's like, it was an awesome experience for you to be able to share that time with each other. And that really, that was amazing. We just, as we went through the process, the whole application process is many steps, which I can't go into, but as we were doing each step, and we're like, all right, well, it went okay, but they're going to do this next stuff, and we're not going to get into, we're not going to go on to the next step. We kept waiting for the next shoe to fall, You don't know. So we kept waiting for that, and all of a sudden we're going to Atlanta, and it's like, oh my gosh, So, well, the next shoe did fall, and we got sent home, but we had an amazing experience all along the way, and as traumatic, and I knew the week prior, there was a promo that got posted about the show, and I went into PTSD. I collapsed because I knew what was going to happen on the show, and I commented to a lot of the castmates, I don't know if I can do this. And they were there for me. I'm sorry. I'm so emotional right now. It's a good emotion right now because I know I have those castmates to lean on. And
you have all of us.
Many of them will go through the same feeling going forward.
Yeah, Dawn, I hope you're reading the chat because there's lots of love and claps in the chat for you.
Yeah.
Also, Dawn,
we're so proud of you.
Dawn was
you
the
always
first
have
person
up
I
to.
met.
You know,
Of the entire cast.
people talk about drama in reality television, and I think what it's hard to see on the other side of the screen is what a profound experience it is for the people who are part of the show.
Yeah.
You know, the highs and the lows, all of that is so much more than what you can even see, you know, in quick cuts on TV.
So one
It is awesome.
So one last final question to our the non-contestants on the panel is, after hearing everything that you've heard here and heard, because I know a lot of you know a lot of people were on the show and stuff like that, would you consider auditioning for season 3, Brian?
Absolutely. 100%. There is no opportunity like that. If I had the opportunity and I could pursue it, and if I had the option to and I got accepted, absolutely. And no matter what I would go through, good or bad. I mean, I don't think I'd win because you see my stuff and you're like, but you know, just to be there and get that experience, nothing is of that similar feat at all, ever. I would absolutely do it.
And do you have somebody in mind? Like, who would you choose to be your partner?
Well, but if I say Flynn, if I say a name here, then a lot of people are going to get really jealous.
Okay.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You can text it to me, Brian. It's
all
fine.
Right. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Text your answer to 49557 today. Normal rates may apply.
Kidding. Jamay, what do you think? Would you, knowing what you know about this, would you go for it?
I think I might try. I think it's something that's really interesting. And I did have, people on Instagram reach out, and, I think they're really trying to diversify and like spread cast a wide net. And for me, I was like, I'm having surgery that time. I can't do that. It doesn't work out for me in my life right now. But it's something that actually Eric TrickyBricks and I talk about fairly frequently. And he's like, would you ever do it? And I was like, would you be my partner? And so I'm like, I don't know who I would do it with. I feel like it's so important to have a good dynamic and to like, I joke about it with my partner who's like not at all a Lego fan, and her friends were like, you guys should do it. And I was like, I think it would be really stressful for you to do something you're not familiar with. So open casting call for my partner.
Well, you and Eric, I would love to see that.
I would love to do it with Eric. I feel like that would be so fun.
I hear Brian's available.
Yeah, Brian.
It's Cara, what do you think? Would you consider it or no?
While I think it would be absolutely an amazing experience, I don't feel like I'm skilled. I have enough technical skill in a lot of areas, and I just wouldn't make it that far. So if they had like Lego Masters Junior and it would allow adults on, I would absolutely go for it. But those kids would probably be way more skilled than me anyway. So
no, you just knock them out of the way on the running to the brick pit. You just knock them out of the way
I'm a very slow builder. It takes me. I like to think about things for a long time and let it evolve. And having to build something in 10 hours is it might take me 10 hours to come up with a concept. So that's just how I build. So probably not.
Holly, what do you think? So we have 2 yeses, a no, and
I'll never say never. I'm kind of like waiting for like a nailed it format show. Like that's the one for me.
Yes. I'm
like
so
where
in
I
there.
can go in expecting to fail and still have fun. Like I think I could enjoy that. I think this environment, I do think it depends on the partner. Like I did interview, actually. I never actually applied for the show for the second season. But I had some friends that were, looking for partners, and some people that asked me if I would partner with them. And my knee-jerk reaction was like, no way. Like, it's just not for me. I don't see myself on reality TV at all. It's too stressful. But one friend in particular, I was like, yeah, actually, it would be pretty fun if we did it together. And so I interviewed with her, but I think the interview process kind of tipped me off that it just didn't feel like something
Right
I
for
would.
you.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right for me. So there are aspects of it that are appealing, and it does seem like it would be like a good challenge, and it would be fun, and there's a lot of compelling reasons to do it, but not enough for me.
Yeah.
There's really I just couldn't come up with, and mostly I was unemployed for 6 months, and that was like really the temptation of like, well, while I'm available, why not? But there just isn't a good enough reason for me, I think, to want to do it.
Understood. So 2 yeses, 2 nos, and 2 I done it already. Well, 4 I done it already.
But if they come up and want to do a fan favorite, Jack and I are already said they don't even have to ask. We will be there.
Absolutely. We
They
would
do a show of
definitely do
fan
the same.
favorites. It would be fun.
Yeah, that's always the question is, would you come back to do something with it?
Yeah.
It sounds like, Dawn, you would be like, yeah, I'd like to
Oh,
take a shot at
I'd
it
be
again.
on the next plane to wherever they were filming.
Yeah,
Well,
Lego
that was
Masters
good.
Bermuda.
About the next challenge.
Ooh, yeah, that
Yes,
sounds
the
good.
next challenge looks and interestingly that they decided to do this particular challenge right after the other one, but we'll talk about that next week. So actually, we have to go. We've gone over time, and we're supposed to be somewhere in 10 minutes, so we're going to have to run. But I wanted to thank all of you for coming and joining us today. Everybody in the chat, Holly and Cara, Moto and Dawn, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And thank you, Jamay, a first-time visitor and hopefully not the last-time visitor. Come and hang out with us. Thank you so much for talking about what you do and giving your thoughts on the show. Appreciate that.
Anytime.
I hope you all come back. It's super fun hanging out with you.
And Brian, little Brian Saviano. So glad to have you on the show again. Thanks for coming, and he'll be a regular fixture here visiting for these Lego Masters breakdowns. Also, too, something I wanted to mention, I have discovered that the show is going to actually be sort of split because of the Olympics. So there's going to be a little bit of a break where we will be doing some other things. Also, we will not be doing a show next week. Next Sunday, no show. It's Father's Day. We are going to celebrate Richard's dad's 90th birthday that we missed out on. So yes. And before we go, though, I did want to give a moment because we didn't get to talk about it last week, and I apologize. Dawn, can you tell us a little bit about your bracelets, what I call the Kelsey connection? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep.
And I'm going to put you on the big screen. Don't be scared.
Okay. All right. All right. This one's in real pale colors, so you can't see that one. But I have a collection I have started building, including this one, which is the one that I actually wore on set. And Kelsey is our great niece. She lived her short life with a lot of different health issues, and we kind of wanted to do this as a tribute for Kelsey. And so I created the Kelsey bracelets that Jack and I wore, and I'm now hoping that everybody will get a Dots bracelet and create their own Kelsey bracelet, and just help spread the love that Kelsey would have shared with everybody else. In this corner, I've got a butterfly that's just made out of 3 quarter round tiles, and I spelled out her name just very simply, But it was something that we lost her in November, just after she turned 16, and the love she had for everybody was just an amazing thing. She had a love of life, and you're going to see a lot of butterfly builds in my future because that was something that was really close to her too.
Which your first episode build was dedicated to.
It was.
And was a beautiful, beautiful build and a beautiful dedication.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn, so much for. Oh, I'm going to get us back here. Woo! Again, thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today. Don't forget, we are in the middle of what is sure to be our most epic challenge ever, and that is the Liz challenge, friends. The Liz challenge, who we discovered, if you did not see our show, on Wednesday, we interviewed Joel Baker, who is the man responsible for making Liz a micro doll, which is amazing. Look, there you go. We got our Liz's. Liz is your seed part. Your build must include Liz. Okay, as the sort of central, as sort of the central thing. But
a fully assembled Liz, right?
What'd you say?
A fully assembled Liz.
A fully assembled Liz.
No,
now, I did see
that
some
takes
people
away my
doing-
build. Oh shoot.
I did see some people doing some like Liz doing cosplay with like a different head on. I will say that we can count that, but like Liz, the character needs to be represented somehow. All right. So Liz build challenge. We'll be talking more about that on Wednesday when we do our show about the typewriter. We'll be doing a review and we'll be getting back to more like TrickyBricks centric things that are going on. We'll be talking about those a little bit more. So, okay, now we have to be somewhere in 5 minutes.
Run away.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming and joining us today. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, don't forget to do stuff. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay healthy. Wash your hands. Wear your mask when and where you still need to. Get that vaccine as soon as you can. And we'll see you Wednesday at 10 a.m. Yes, get your shot. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy building.
Bye.